Photographers, broken back? Nobody cares. Just get on your knees and take the goddamn pictures. That's what it's like for many photographers, those of us who have got physical ailments and who find it difficult to do certain things. And the industry is definitely not geared up to help us. So today, I'm going to talk about the physical issues I have in being a photographer. And hopefully some of you can relate to that. And hopefully you can see some of how I get through that. Sometimes I'm not quite sure how I do. But anyway, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to episode whatever it is of the Lance Burkitt Encounter. And I did a photo shoot. I did a couple of photo shoots recently where it was kind of brought home to me quite starkly that my physical limitations stop me from doing things in photography that I really want to do. And I thought there must be other people out there who've got similar issues with their physical ailments. And I wondered if I could, I'd talk about the issues I face and what I go through. And maybe kind of come to a position where we can all help each other and help each other understand that we're not alone in our limitations, and it doesn't stop us being good photographers or even great photographers. But I'll touch on how that can kind of impact on the wider issues which run alongside, particularly being working class and into photography. When you put physical ailments into that mix, it can make it really difficult for you to find and do work. So like I said, the shoots I did recently brought it home to me, because I'll give you a bit of context. I'm 53 years old now. When I was 17, I was working as a labourer at the steelworks in Rotherham, and I felt I was doing some labouring one day, and I thought, my back hurts a little bit. But never really thought on it, because I was doing heavy labour, shoveling, lifting things, so I never thought much of it at that time. I was 17. And then gradually between then and 25, 26, my back got to a point where I sometimes could hardly move. It would seize up. The pain, I can equate it to like somebody sticking a knife in your back and twisting it right at the bottom of my spine. So I was 25, I might have just been 26. I decided I was going to actually get it looked at, because I thought I'm still in my prime. I was still a musician at that point. I was still finding my way in life and quite young still. But this back problem was starting to make me miserable, and it was certainly stopping me doing things. So I probably spent the next 10 years looking for answers, and we're not finding any. As is typical with doctors and the NHS, that's the National Health Service in England and Wales and all that. Now, I'm not slagging the NHS staff off per se, although a couple of doctors were abject wankers. What I'm saying is, if I'd have had a lot of money and could have gone private, I think I could have got my back semi-fixed a long time ago. But I was never in a position to do that, so I'm at the mercy of the NHS. So I started going for tests and scans and all that. And I got passed from pillar to post for 10 years, and I was sent to physiotherapy, hydrotherapy, electrocution therapy, all sorts of therapy. At one point, even the physio put me on a rack and stretched me and made it worse. And looking back now, I should have probably sued the fuckers for that. But anyway, so for 10 years or so, I got maybe even longer than 10 years, I got no real answers. And eventually, a good doctor I came across, I was living in Manchester at the time, sent me for an MRI scan. And finally, they came to the conclusion that I have something called degenerative disc disease. And if you don't know what that is, it's pretty self-explanatory. And the bottom 3 discs in my spine, I can never remember what they're called, L1, 2, 3, whatever they are, have wasted away, and there's no real shock absorber there anymore. It's just bone on bone, bone on nerve, and so that's where my pain comes from. But that pain spreads across all of my lower back and down my legs. And it got to a point where I couldn't be comfortable sitting, standing, walking. I was just in abject misery. I started being a photographer at this time. It was really limiting me to what I could do. If I did push myself and did a day's photography, if I got on the floor and did that stuff that photographers have to do, for days after I was just being miserable. But eventually it got to the point where it was my back pain. I was kind of getting used to that, living with back pain. Those of you that do understand that. But it was deferred leg pain that was really killing me. My legs constantly felt like they were being crushed all the time. So same doctor that had got me the MRI and stuff gave me some medication, which I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it actually works, and it stops that majority of that leg pain. So I was then able to function again. And I said to myself at that time, I'm not ever going to allow this to not let me be a photographer or not let me do anything I want to do. I can still drive, I can still ride a motorcycle, I can still be a photographer, but within all that, I'm in a modicum of pain the whole time. I'm sitting here talking to you now. If I sit and concentrate, my back feels like it's got a knife in it, someone's twisting it. But over almost, 30 years plus, nearly 40 years of this pain being there, I kind of ignore it and get through. So that's a bit of a context for my back pain and how it affects me in photography. So I was doing a photo shoot last week, and I did one the week before with my stepson's band, the Kellows. Hopefully you'll have come across the Kellows now. Great young band, very enthusiastic, very talented, exceptional musicians for 17 years old. They've got a manager who is getting some quite prestigious gigs already. They recorded their first single a few days ago. That'll be out soon. So they're getting good. So I offered to do them some pictures. Why wouldn't I? So I did some at a gig a couple of weeks ago. I'll show you some in a bit. But straight away, immediately, I'm kind of like straight into just doing street photography with them, but almost immediately straight into limitations of I want to climb up lampposts, I want to roll on the floor, I want to do things that will get exceptional pictures or different pictures. And straight away, I'm thinking, fucking hell, I can't even bend down to get this shot. And that kind of played back into when I shot them again the week later in the studio. Same issue, different concepts, different ideas, but same issue of immobility or pain from immobility or trying to be mobile. Made it so I wasn't able to do some of the things that I wanted to do and wasn't able to create some pictures I wanted to create, which is a bit of a pisser when you're a creative photographer and you've got a head full of ideas. But I did get some good work. I did get some good pictures. I was quite happy with most of the pictures, as with the band. But it really brought it home to me that my whole photography career has been stifled in some way because of my physical limitations. Now, clearly, I know I'm overweight. Clearly, I know I'm not the healthiest. I was never going to be a marathon runner or a sports runner photographer. I was never going to be a pursuit, a windsurf photographer or whatever, mountain fucking air. I would none of that. Luckily, never interested me. So I'm not saying that I wanted to be, I don't know, some kind of endurance photographer, but I would like to be able to be a bit more agile and a bit more energized. And I could get some of that probably by losing a bit of weight, but I have lost weight. What are we talking? I've battled with my weight my whole life. Two reasons. One, I've got the family gene where we're all pretty well built. Three things actually. That I've got a thyroid problem. I've got hypothyroidism, so I don't process stuff very quickly and put weight on. But also, I eat too much. I like my food. I'm not going to deny that. But 10 years or so ago, 10 or 12 years ago, I decided to lose weight just to see. Lost about 6 stone, which is a lot. And then through exuberance and enjoying food, I've put that on over the last decade, put it back on. But in that time, I was the healthiest I had been since I was in my 20s probably. And my backache, my back pain, my deferred, all that was still as bad as it ever was, even without all that weight. So when a doctor says, lose some weight, tell them to fuck off. Ask them for some real answers, not excuses. Because I'm testament to the fact that losing 6 stone didn't make a blind bit of difference to the level of back pain or the level of immobility that I got. I couldn't move any more than I could when I was 6 stone heavy. So Yes, I know I'm overweight. Yes, I know I'm unfit. I get all that, but that's not what stops me from being the photographer I want to be, or from being in the pain that I'm in. It's not that. It's another issue. So I medicate the worst part of my pain. That medication helps me to be able to exist and do as much as I can. But the rest of it is sheer bloody minded willpower that I want to be the best fucking photographer that I can be with the limitations I've got. So in doing that the last few days, and certainly in the studio shoot last week, not being able to get into some positions I would have liked to have got into without building something to do it with. I've worked around those frustrations by doing slightly different shots and by using the camera in a different way, and I'll explain that in a minute. But generally speaking, I was just thinking, it can't all be me. I mean, I'm aware of something called the Disabled Photographers Society, which do great work. But the society is kind of made up of disabled photographers, as you might guess. But I've not spoken to them. But I wonder how much. I mean, I do know some of them vaguely, and some of their sounds like I'm whinging, and I'm not saying I'm worse than anybody. I do know some disabled photographers who have a lot worse disabilities than I have. Clearly do. But still, we're all in the same boat, aren't we? We're all in the same misery. And you know, there's a difference between, how can I put this, by being disabled by can't do something. Example, you've lost a limb, so you're limited. Or you've got all your limbs and you're just in agony all the time, and that's debilitating in terms of mental health, how can I phrase it? Get up and go, being positive enough to go through it and work, which is what I have, rather than a limb missing or, you know, some kind of thing where I can't physically walk, or well, I can physically walk, I can sit, I can drive, I can do all those things, but I'm always in bloody pain doing it. So I understand that. So the Disabled Photography Society do the great work, because I see them now and again at the photography shows selling their wares, and you know, I'm aware of them. But how they work that into helping how they do photography, or making sure photographers get the same opportunities, because you'll find in this world most companies, in fact all companies, currently shout about equality, diversity, inclusion, but trust me, the photographic industry does not give a flying fuck that you've got a bad back. The photography industry does not give a flying fuck that you're wasted away and your back's crippling you. All they want to do is, can you turn up, can you do it, how cheap can you do it, how quick can you turn it round? So when I'm going to I don't tell anybody, this is the first time I've publicly acknowledged this. I have colleagues that know it, and obviously my family know it. But if you met me in public, unless you see me, you know, standing a bit awkward, or, you know, moving, trying to get comfy, or just saying, you know, you wouldn't know, because I don't talk about it generally. And some of that is because if people think you've got a illness, they just think, oh, fucking hell, that cunt will shy off. They'll not turn up. They'll take all day. It'll be twice as that. Oh. And I know that, because it has happened to me, and it's happened to other people that I know that don't conform. So equality, diversity, inclusion in the photography industry doesn't exist. They can pay lip service to it all they want. They can tell you that they're doing it all they want, but can trust me, it doesn't exist. They'll tell you that it does. You know, they'll make sure they've got their coloured armbands on, that they've got their quota of lesbian, gay, black, Asian, whatever it is. But from a disabled photographer's perspective in the industry, there is no acceptance that you can be quite physically unable, and it's accepted, in my experience. Hopefully you've had a different experience to me, but in my experience, that's just how it is. So lots of kind of, if I sit and think about it too long, it's a big frustration, but really it's just, I'm just used to it, so I just get up and get on. But the last two shoots, like I keep reiterating, were quite painful and quite difficult, because I'm not talking about, like I said before, skydiving or surfing. I'm just in a studio getting up and down and getting to awkward angles. On the street, getting onto the concrete floor, the tarmac floor, wanting to climb up on a wall to get a shot. All that kind of stuff is impossible for me. And I do some of it. I do manage to be able to do some of that, but not to the degree I'd like to. So I thought I'll put a little podcast about it and show you some of my pictures and how I compromised, and the pictures I got I still like, I still enjoy, they're still good. And now, kind of thankfully, cameras are now, you're now able to not have to look through the viewfinder to get the shot, which I actually prefer to do. I don't like shooting on the phone, you know, I don't like going, oh yeah, that's not how I work. And it's the same with when I'm using a camera. I don't want to be doing that. I want to be in the viewfinder, really looking in it and seeing what's happening. But in this instance, having a camera with a flippable LCD that you can pop out and move an angle so you can get the camera in a position that you can't get in kind of helped me. And I'm pleased about that. I'm glad about that, but I'm highly fucking frustrated about that at the same time, because I don't feel like I can compose a shot exactly how I want it, because I'm not in the camera. I'm not part of the camera. The camera's not glued to me. I don't feel like I'm at one with the camera like you do when you put your eye up to the viewfinder, if you're using a medium format and you're looking into it. I felt it feels alien to me. It feels wrong, but it did allow me to get the shoot done. So I guess it's a good thing. But it's not something I really enjoy doing. It's not something I strive to be. I don't strive to operate that way as a photographer. I do see lots of gurus out there doing that. That's how they all shoot now. Touchscreen shutter, all that shit. I see them doing it, but it's not for me. I'm an old school, get my eye in the camera, live in the camera, make it become part of you. You'll see a better picture. So when I show you my works shortly, you'll see kind of how I compromise to do that. So the physical limitations then, of course, stop you doing what you want to do. So you do something that's a compromise. And does that give you better pictures? Does that mean you end up in a place where you go, actually, that's a bit, because I did it that way? It might do. It might do. When you look at these pictures, you might think, actually, Lance, you've done all right there. If you could have done it how you wanted to do it, you might not have got that shot. So we'll have a look and see how that pans out. But generally speaking, I think I miss some shots because I can't do that physical stuff. And I hope there's nobody else out there who has this issue, but I know they do. Clearly, I know they do. So if you get a chance, once you've had a listen, drop a comment below or pop me an email and tell me the kind of situations you found yourselves in, whether they're just little annoyances or whether they're big fucking issues. Because only when we talk about it and we find solutions together can we kind of get past it. My back's never going to be fixed. It's been muted a few times. It could be fused and it could end up being worse than it is. So my back, I'm stuck with this forever. I've lived with it for 30 odd years. I know that. I'm not happy with it, but I understand it. It's finding ways to still do the thing you love creatively and to a great standard when you've had to compromise somehow. So love to hear of your experiences. Drop them in below. Let's keep that conversation going. And I'd love to see what work you made as well. So feel free to post your work down in the comments or email it to me. I'll take a look and happily share it with others, because I just think that it's brilliant that people who are in quite miserable pain, dire pain, can still power through and do something creative and something they love. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm some kind of greatness because I can do this. I've got years of experience of having to go through it. Day jobs as well. I've had to work day jobs and had to go to work in this pain and find a way to get through it. I'm not some kind of martyr. I'm not saying you can't have a day job and be in pain. I'm sure there's many, many people out there go to work every day in abject agony. And I know there is. I know people there is. But just relating this to my main field of photography, my love of photography, kind of love to hear your stories about how you power through. So when I photographed the Fellows, I was going to say then, the Kellows, who are an up-and-coming Sheffield band. If you look on Instagram, you'll find them, the Kellows music. I shot, what did we do? I mean, we probably did 500 pictures the first day. So they had a gig at a place called Sydney and Matilda in Sheffield, great little venue. And I said, do you want me to bring my camera and get you some pictures? Because they recently signed up to a management deal. and they didn't have a lot of stuff. They'd only got phone camera shots and gigs and stuff, so I thought I'd get them some high-res, some good resolution stuff that them and the manager can use. And actually, they've ended up using a shot from this set for their debut single, which is out mid-July, which is great. Great for them, great bit of publicity for me. But straight away, we went out the street, and I'm looking for things. You know, you look for opportunities, places that might look good, and I found this little kind of like doorwell that had been graffitied and posted, and I just thought, that looks nice. That looks really nice. So straight away, I'm taking shots at the normal light, kind of head out, crouching down a little bit. But what I wanted to do here really was get down where the stripe, you can see the lines on the floor. They're actually yellow lines. Look. See the lines on the floor. I want to get down there and be looking up at them, get something beaming at them with a wide lens and make them look a bit menacing. But I couldn't, because if I had got down there, I probably wouldn't have got back up again. And I was photographing the gig as well, so I stayed to do the gig. And I wanted to watch it and enjoy the night. And if I'd have got down and done that, there's a good chance I'd have hurt myself or been in that much pain. I just would have wanted to go home. So straight away, I'm limited in what I can do and how I can photograph things. This is like 60 seconds into the shoot. But I'm not going to the band. I've my back sore, guys. I can't do that. I'm just working a way around it, working ways of making it work anyway. So these are kind of more like waist-height, regular positioned shot, composed pictures. But just got lucky that the light was kind of beaming right in the middle of that shot. If you look at it, you can see how the posters are lit up bang centre, and towards the edges here it's a little less lit. You can see some beams of light coming across the street to them, but I wish I could have set that up. In fact, I probably couldn't have set that up any better if I tried. And if you look at it on the black and white image, it's a lot more obvious. It's quite prominent, how you can see. Now, none of that's been done in post. That's all as it was. The only thing I've done in post here was check the colour, check the exposure, pinch the highlights and shadows a little bit, but that is how the light hit, and I just quite like that. And the thing about them is we try to do that usual thing with a band. Don't look at me, don't look at them, just be yourself, do something, think about something. So that's what they're doing. And there are stronger pictures, I think, in there facially from the guys, but that was kind of like how we started. And they like the picture and I like the picture, and it's one of those kind of, it's straight away it's a compromise, isn't it? It's the god-awful compromise that because I couldn't get on the floor, I couldn't get. When we shot in the studio last week, I did do something like that, and we'll get to those shortly, but pretty much they are like they are because of my physical limitations. There's no me on the street rolling around shots, because if I had done that, it would have ruined the rest of the shoot, and I didn't want to do that. So you can see pretty straight on. Again, quite nice lighting. Evan's kind of stuck off the edge of the wall, which is nice because they didn't want it to be too uniform. Just wanted it to look as if they were sat having a conversation I'd happened across them. Kept fucking hell, sorry. Kept finding bits of graffiti and bits of walls. This is on either Sydney or Matilda Street, one of the two in Sheffield. Pub Sydney and Matilda's on the junction, so it's named Sydney and Matilda. I don't know which it is. One of the streets anyway. And car park. Interesting sign, so I'm just placing them, saying, stand where you can, guys, see how you look. But again, this would have lent itself to a real low down looking up shot, and I just couldn't physically do it. If I'd only been taking these shots and had nothing else to do the rest of the day, I probably would have done it and suffered the pain, but on this occasion I couldn't do it, so I'm kind of again stuck doing straight on shots. But so what I did is I worked around them like so, and just tried to work their body positions, and trying to get them fanning out, as it were, across the composition, and it worked quite well. There's a few nice shots in there, and tried to do it differently. So the lead singer's facing away, bass player at the front, guitarist in the middle, drummer at the back, singer looks like he's having a piss, actually, doesn't he, when I think about it. But just trying to be different. Most people just put the singer at the front. The singer goes, and the band are just might as well not be there. So I mixed it up a little bit for that reason, and got the singer to will to turn around and not face, which I thought was quite nice. We then happened across this pub, and we did this just to see if we could get told off, and we didn't, so it was quite disappointing. I said, go and sit outside the pub and we'll see how long I can take pictures here before some misery comes out and says, get out of my pub. Well, they didn't, so we took a few pictures, and again, singer leaning forward, rest of the band in a different world. They're not Pulitzer Prize winning shots, but they're shots. Again, could have got them all on the wall, laid on the floor, looked up at them. Was thinking along the lines of, I don't know if you know the Beatles' early album where they're up on the terrace in the kind of like apartments and the photographer's looking up at them. I wanted to do some of those kind of things, but they couldn't get up high enough and I couldn't get down low enough. So we kind of pretty quickly binned that off and returned to doing some more street-based stuff like this, which helped me because it meant I didn't have to roll around the floor or look up, stretch up too much. I could kind of just keep things sensible, keep my back in a bearable place, and try and take some nice pictures, which is kind of what we did. So for this point here, we just rotated the guys round, singer at the front to start with, and give everybody a chance at the front just to see how it kind of worked. And some are stronger than others, just because how things work aesthetically. Some people look better in a certain position, some people look worse in a certain position, some people's facial expressions work better or worse in some situations. So, but again, it's a nice street. Street's going away, nice and working class, nice and rough, run down, old parts of Sheffield, which are pre-industrial or old industrial, sorry, and just nicely kind of lit by the sun up behind us. No tricks, no wizardry, no flash, no anything, just me, those guys, a camera and the sun. So that was our, winner, I think, for that day. So yeah, so they were a great bunch of lads and did everything that was asked and didn't complain when I kept moving them around, saying do this, do that and the other. As you can see there, you get a slightly different kind of look, depending who's in the front, who's at the rear. But they're all great usable shots. They loved them. Again, we use this red dot on the wall just as a point of interest. And this again would have lent itself to me getting right down up against the wall and looking up and down, but I just physically couldn't do it. So I'm kind of stuck with what I've got, which is face on, square on. And then we switched up a little bit and I just said, walk towards me, guys, just walk towards me. So we did a few hundred pictures of them coming and going, and got some nice ones of them just being the band, looking quite normal. But again, this could have lent itself to me in the car park with the puddles, looking up, doing some creative stuff, but I physically can't do it, so I physically didn't do it. I stuck to what I could do and tried to do the best with what I got in terms of physical limitations. And again, we did with this one. This one I kind of tried to get down as low as I could by using the wall behind me as a kind of seat. So I was trying to up against the wall, trying not to fall or get down too low and hurt myself, because I just wanted to be slightly underneath them here. And I kind of quite like these, a bit quirky. Now, my kind of photography composition brain is saying, fucking hell, that my composition brain is saying that's all a bit dishevelled, that, because the centre of the roof's off centre. But I got used to it and realised actually it makes it a little quirkier. And as we went along, we got some nice little pictures like this, and this is the one that the band have actually picked to be their single cover for their single Do You Want Me To, which is out in July. So, which is very nice of them to use, some of my work. As you can see, we did some variations with people walking past, and some things worked, some things didn't. I mean, there are a lot more pictures besides these. There's some with a red car, and I could have changed the colour of the red car, but it was stuck out like a sore thumb, so we didn't do that. We went with this one and the black and white version. Like that, which is the one which the guys liked best, and it's nice of them to use that. So, like I said before, I wasn't saying to them as I was doing this, my physical limitations are going to mean you're only going to get some shit, guys. Didn't tell them that. I just worked with what I've got. When we worked in the studio, before we started it, I kind of sent them some ideas which included pictures like that, knowing I would have to do them. And I have to be honest, if Evan, my stepson, had not kept saying, get down there and do this, I probably wouldn't have done as many as I did. It was him wanting it that made me do it. And he knows I have a back, he knows I have limitations, but he also knows I like to push myself and get what I can for. So I'm kind of glad he did persist with that and made me do more than I would have done. So after this, we went and had a Coca-Cola and had a laugh, and then they played the gig. So I did a little bit of them pre-setting up at the gig, and the lighting in the venue where they're at is very fake, and I guess fluorescent would be the word. And you can see on the colour shots, look, the colours all over the place is red, green, purple, blue, yellows, magentas, all kind of hitting everywhere. And they didn't have like a revolving or flashing lights, they were just on, kind of like that all the time. And it works well in some instances and not so well in others. So particularly when the reds and yellows catch somebody's face, it makes them look plastic, and it's difficult to edit that out and make it not look that. So most of these shots are pretty much as I shot them. A little bit of exposure tweaking in terms of highlights and shadows, but other than that, they're pretty much as shot. No sharpening, no anything else done to them. So again, coming at this from my physical limitations point, the stage is at the same height as you, so they may be raised up 2 feet at the most. So unlike when you see Glastonbury or the big festivals where the photographers are in the pit looking up at people, can't do that here. And obviously with my bad back, I wasn't going to get on the floor and lay and look up at them, much as I might wanted to. I actually did for a couple of shots, and they kind of semi-worked, but I did struggle to get where I wanted to be, so they were a bit of a compromise. I'll show you when I get to them. But again, I'm going to be doing most things here at head height, straight on, and trying to make the pictures interesting with that in mind. So again, I probably took 400 or 500 pictures at this point. And one thing I've noticed about band photography, which, considering I used to be in a band and be a musician previously, you would have thought I'd have clocked earlier, but bloody microphones and microphone stands just get in the way. They just ruin everything. And you'll see as we go through, you go, oh, great picture. Shit, his face is cut off by the mic. And a lot of frustration like that. But unless you're going to get them to wear the Kylie Minogue stroke Madonna headset, what are you going to do? And they're not going to do that. So, as you can see, the venue, nice and run down, great grotty venue. So I went with creativity, I went with depth of field, I went with some longer shutter, I went with some shooting through bits and bobs, using foregrounds and sidegrounds. Try and make something creative from them other than just a nice picture of them playing guitar or playing drums. So you can see as we go through, I start to focus on individual band members and trying to get them something usable, interesting, and rock and roll for them. And again, that's a great shot, but it's killed by the microphone stand. So the compromise. And perhaps if I could have got on the floor and come across to the right hand side here and looked up, that would have been a better shot. It would have been a better shot, but I can't do it. I just physically can't do it, so I'm stuck with what I can do, which is that. And apart from the microphone stand, I quite like that shot. Again, that one there, if I'm down here, crouched down looking up at Will there, that's probably a stronger shot. Wouldn't be ruined by the mic stand, but I'm working with what I've got. So frustrating. But I think what it does is it pushes you into a style you wouldn't necessarily do without the limitations. And maybe that's where I said earlier that maybe that could be a good thing, because you have to be careful to not mimic somebody else by doing the same things. And if you've got a physical limitation that stops you, doing something that you would have done like somebody else, then you can't do it, can you? You can only do what you can do. So I think the shot I've got is the shot I've got because of my limitations. But the shot I might have got, if I didn't have those limitations, might have just bloody looked like everybody else's shot. So whilst I'm compromising, I'm also thinking it could be a good thing, and it certainly adds to my style. It must do. not being able to physically lay down, squat down quickly, stand up quickly, jump, lean over things must add to my style. And perhaps in adding to my style, it takes away me being like anybody else, if that makes sense. That's how I'm going to use it, and that's how I'm going to push it, and that's what I'm going to kind of like tell myself the truth is. So did lots of pictures of them, and I think they're great. They're a great bunch of lads. They're going to go far, trust me. I mean, I'm lucky that I'm attached to them because I'm stepdad to Evan, but they're a real nice bunch of lads. Exceptional musicians for 17 years old. Exceptional. As I've said a million times, I was a professional musician for many years, and they're probably 5 years ahead of where I was. I was kind of as good as them when I was in my early 20s. And they're 17. Passion for it, all they do is play, rehearse, write, play, rehearse, write. Now they've got a manager, now it's play, rehearse, go to London, gig in London, come back, play, go to record a single in London. It's great. And I'm glad to be able to help them a little bit and get opportunities like this to come and photograph them. And yes, at some point they'll fly the nest and they'll be off to wherever they're going, and I won't be able to do it anymore because I can't get there. I'm too knackered, I'm too old. They want that shot with the bloke laid down looking at all that. But for now, I'm glad to be involved, and I'm glad to be in a position where I can help them, because I think the more we can help young creatives, the better. If you get an opportunity to help a young creative, great. If you need to get paid, well, see what you can do for them. But helping young creatives, I think, is a goodwill gesture that won't be overlooked, and people don't forget. My experience, most people, actually I've had a couple of people who've shafted me, now I think about it, but most people will always return the favour. Always. So you can see on here, look, where the magenta and blue cyanic colours are hitting them. I guess it's the skin pigment gets destroyed by the colour, and it just looks horrible, patchy, and just crap. It looks like I don't know what I'm doing. Looks like I don't know what I'm editing. Looks like I've fucked up, but it's just a side effect. And it is actually worse on the mirrorless camera, the R6, than what it is on the DSLR. That. So maybe there's a processing issue there. But I kind of know it's going to happen, so I live with it. And again, they always look better in black and white when there's a bit of noise or a bit of off colour. I'm going to photograph them again at a gig next Tuesday. I'm going to take some flash this time. I'm going to use my flash gun and see if that makes a difference. See if I can get a different creative angle on it rather than just using the lights which are on the stage. So we'll see how that goes. Whether I'm going to push myself to lay on the floor or not is probably not going to happen, but I am going to try and do something different to what you're seeing here. Now at this point here, I spoke earlier about using, I haven't got a camera to show you. So on the R6 and a lot of the modern cameras, DSLRs and mirrorless, you can flip the LCD screen out and turn it around. That's what I've done here. So although I'm crouched a little bit, I'm holding it down with my hand and holding like that, and I'm not framing through the camera, framing through the viewfinder, which goes against everything I feel, believe, trust, hope and know in photography. But got that shot. And without the capability to do that with the camera, I don't think I'd have been able to get down to get that shot. So again, using the modern technology in cameras as an aid to help me as a slightly, I'm never going to call myself disabled, because there are people out there that are, and I'm not. I'm able to get around. What's the right phrase? I have limitations. Some of my physical limitations that stop me from doing things I want to do so because of those limitations, I wouldn't have got the shot without the technology of the camera allowing me to hold it down and still see the shot. That makes sense. There's no way I could have got my eye down there to get that shot. And I quite like it. And I always prefer black and whites of gig shots anyway, but I quite like that. And again, it's the shot I got through what I could do with the kit I got. And if I'd have done it like everybody else can do it, fully able-bodied people can do it, I might have got a different shot altogether. So you can see kind of the rest of the set are like, all kind of bandy stuff, nothing like Pulitzer Prize winning. The guys loved them. We got some nice pictures, some usable pictures. I was shooting in burst mode, so I went through lots of pictures. And I did some panning round with the crowd as well to see how, to get some crowd interaction. But generally speaking, I was trying to focus on the band and be creative and trying to not make them look like the Shadows, three guitarists all together. That was kind of the remit, especially from Evan. Don't make us look like the Shadows. So this is one where I did really use the camera, crouched down as much as I could, leant on the wall, held the camera down pretty much between my ankles, and used the viewfinder twisted around to focus up. That was the best I could get there. And I did it on this bit because I know Evan's about to do a solo where he plays it behind his head. So I was trying to be creative and funky there. And they are actually nice shots there. But again, because of my limitations physically, it made me shoot it like that. And I think it probably does work better for that. Because I think if I could have got on the floor, I might have been too low down and looking right up at him and got more of his legs in than the guitar. So I don't know. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just happens that my work looks this way because of the limitations I've got. But I'm still quite happy with that. And he is, obviously, because he's showing off a little bit. And he's got a funky picture of him showing off. And that one again, where Wills is looking at him. But that microphone's in the way. And I could run it fucking through AI and get rid of it. But you guys know by now what I think about AI. And it ain't good. So, it is what it is. You get what you get, don't you? When you're working with the limitations in any field, you should be pleased that you've got something in the ballpark as what you intended, because my physical limitations are the pain limitations, really. I can kneel down, I can lay down, I can do all that, but it hurts that fucking much. I don't do it. And some people, like I said, literally can't do it because they can't physically do it. Their back doesn't work, their knees don't work, they don't have feet, they don't have legs. So I'm lucky that I can do what I can do, regardless of the copious amounts of pain that I'm in doing most things. So that was the live stuff. So then last Sunday, a week ago today, we went to here, actually, where I do the podcast, which is my studio, Burkitt Productions Studio Limited. And I kind of semi-folded away the podcast. You can see, you can't tell it, but the podcast is in the corner of the studio. But it kind of intrudes into the studio enough that I can't get the backdrops out and stuff, so I have to kind of semi-pack this away to do that. So we did that. And you can probably see a bit of the podcast set in some of the shots. But again, thoroughly enjoying it by using my creativity, that my lighting I can do, my style. I didn't do too much different to what I would do if I had a model or an actress or an actor in here doing portraits. I kind of did things the same way. Clean grey backdrop, nice big lights. Not trying to be too clever or intricate, although we did for a couple of shots. Shot most things straight on because of my limitations, but I had sent them some ideas where I'm looking up at them, so we did do some of that as well. And I did spend a lot of time rolling about on the floor, and then on Monday I fucking felt it. Sunday night, actually, I felt it. So, again, pushed by Evan to make sure I did some. I'm glad he did. And we got what we got, and we got good stuff. The only kind of downside was that one of the band members couldn't make it, so I guess we used it as a test to see what we could do together, how we work together, and B, to give them some ideas to come back and do it again when they're all four available. But they got some nice individual shots, but the band shots we'll probably not ever use because one of the members wasn't there, and you can't really use 3 out of the 4 when there's 4 in the band. But again, you can see the kind of stuff we went for. And they're a young band, they're finding their identity, their style. They've all got their own quirks, their own looks, what they like to wear and stuff like that. So as they get through their phases, they may transform and start wearing similar. I don't know. So you can only photograph what's in front of you. And I photograph them as they are. And they're all nice lads, and we've got some interesting pictures. Just a shame that Charlie, the bass player, couldn't make it that day, but it did give us an opportunity for some individual shots and some ideas for the band for when they come back and do some band stuff. You can see the kind of stuff we did. Pretty straightforward portrait stuff. That was them pretending to play baseball, just going through some prop ideas. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. This is me. This is Evan saying, don't forget you said you'd lay out floor and test. Oh, okay, of course. So we did this as a test. I'm not sure if I like it or not. The concept was use some props that aren't really related to what you do. Didn't have a lot in the studio, to be fair, apart from that bloody baseball. So we used that and a couple of sticks. But I kind of like the concept of the shot, but it didn't quite work. This is them just doing the, in the 60s, you used to get lots of the bands in the 60s would be popping out from behind some curtains or behind the settee or something fucking stupid. So got some separator blinds in the studio, and we just rake them out and popped them behind, and we did some of these fun things, and they were quite fun, some of it. You can see on this one, I got Evan to hold up a little mini whiteboard and then Photoshop Charlie, the bass player from the gig, onto it just for a bit of a laugh. But the concept of these are good. We just needed all 4 band members to be there, so we'll probably do something like this again once they're all back. And then again, me laying on the floor, breaking my back, because I promised, and getting some interesting stuff. And I kind of quite like that, how they're kind of, I photoshopped the Kellows logo on, by the way. I like that. I like that kind of line of sight. I like that. I like they're all doing something a bit silly. It's probably, again, a bit 60s, a bit monkeys kind of stuff. But they liked them, and that's the kind of stuff they want to do when they come back. So we'll bear that in mind. But again, I am actually on the floor here using the viewfinder, and it was difficult. And the only thing that really allowed me to do it was the fact that I was in no rush. I didn't have to rush. I wasn't doing it to a time scale, and I wasn't planning to do anything for the rest of the day other than sit down and edit. But it still hurts. It's still tricky. It's still, I make a bit of a joke about it so people don't feel so bad, but it's difficult. And I'm sitting here now thinking my back's hurting quite a bit today. I think yesterday I sat down too much, which often happens at weekends. And today I'm just not finding it difficult to get comfortable. But the pain's worth it because I'm getting shots that I want. And like I said previously, having 30 years of working through pain, you suffer it, even though you know it's there and it's misery. You suffer it because I want to be a photographer. I want to be the best photographer I can be. And I can't be the best photographer. If I said pain's too much, I can't do it. I'd never do it again. And I said to myself, 15, 17, well, when I got medicated, I'd said to myself, I'm not ever going to allow this to stop me doing what I want to do. I could at that point probably have gone and signed on the sick, become disabled. But I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to power through it and be the photographer, the person I always wanted to be. And I kind of have. But it's difficult some days. So you can see this bunch here, which again, if you go back to the early stuff we did in the street, I'd like to have done some more like this in the street or at the gig. But couldn't put myself in a position where I'd be so bloody sore I couldn't get home or see the rest of the night out, so I didn't. But in the studio last week, I didn't have to worry about that so much because I could have sat here and rested for an hour before I went home if I needed to. These again were just ideas which kind of worked. I purposely had the shutter too fast on these to create a bit of I was looking for a bit more of a vignette than I actually got, but that black banding at the bottom is because the shutter's not synced with the lights. The lights sync at 125th of a second, and I was up to about 400th of a second, I think, here, purposely to get that band in. But it kind of works. It worked for a couple of shots. Could have done it in post, but I kind of like the way it feathers itself. If you get it right, that one's better. Then again, crouching down, looking at them. I can't remember, if I'm honest, whether I did this through the viewfinder or through the LCD screen. But either way, I liked it, and I did a version where I photoshopped the light out as well, and it looked too clean, so I left the light in. Not sure what you guys think of that, but that's why I did it. And again, you can do shots like this and look for the perfect studio or perfect location where there's nothing in the background. So, you can have a Infinity Cove, it's all beautiful, pure white, and there's no scabby backgrounds or poles. But I often think they're just too clean, too clinical, them. So I left everything. I've not edited it out for most of them. I've left it in, and I think it kind of works better because they're in a studio. They know they're having the pictures done. Again, that's another misfire purpose dragging of the shutter and leaving the stuff, and you can see on that one where I take the background out and the light out. It's too clinical maybe. These were, I want to do some kind of silhouette stuff, but I want to see them a little bit, so not just pure silhouettes. So backlit them and just allowed a bit of bounce around the room on the front for this set. But then as I went along, we did some where they got a little more. You see they've got a little bit more coming back at them there, so you can see the faces a little more. And then the last set I did, I just put a hair light, what would normally be a hair light, off to their right, my left. I just had it feathered with a baffle, just hitting their faces slightly, just for something different. And again, when they come back as a band, we'll do these properly. And then again, I was sitting on the floor, breaking my back for the pain, but looking for those opportunities to kind of get to where I probably wouldn't normally get, because the discussion with the band is let's do something like that. And then we kind of finished off on some semi-normal portraits, but we did things like chuck a microphone in there. We did we got some old picture frames, busted the glass out and put the frames around them for some of them, just to be a bit more creative. Some worked, some didn't. Guitar ones didn't really work at all as a band because the band weren't all there. I like the ones of Charlie. I like the ones of Will. Will's got a real kind of like frontman look. He's so not bothered. He's so like relaxed, and it shows. And I really like that attitude of just a guitarist, the band, mate. He's not trying to be Liam Gallagher, which is great. And then I said to Ruben, the drummer, play the drums like they're not there, and did a combination of flash and long exposure. So take the shot, the flash goes off, lights him up, and then that 1 second I think I had the shutter over exposure captures the movement, and they're quite nice. I did a whole set like that, just to be a bit more creative, just to do something other within my physical limitations, using the camera and the lights. And because he's a really good drummer, and he drums like Animal off the Muppets, so trying to capture him is pretty difficult. But I kind of like that. I like the motion blur and that, which is actually done in camera and not post. So thanks to Ruben for his patience for those. And then again, a few more looking up, just leaving the backdrop in, using Evan's guitar and his feet coming towards me to do that kind of stuff. None of it particularly groundbreaking, but it's given them a bunch of pictures they didn't have. It's given me opportunity to push my technical capabilities. But more than that, it reminded me of the physical limitations I've got and how I've spent 30 years working with them, and finding ways around them. So you can see that I do have physical limitations, and I'm happy to talk about them openly. I get very frustrated sometimes by them, but I do try to remind myself that I can still walk, I can still drive, I can still ride my motorbike. In fact, I was talking to a colleague about this the other day, and I was saying, it's crazy. I have more pain when I'm driving my car than when I do when I'm on the motorbike. And that, I think, is all down to position, riding position. And considering my pain, it differs from the bottom of my spine. You would think sitting on a motorbike and riding would hurt my spine, but it's not really that. It's about position of legs, back, angle. So when I'm in my car, some days it's really painful. Can't get out of it. When I'm on my bike, to be fair, my knees hurt on the bike more, I think, than my back does, because I've got cartilage issues in my knees. So again, I've got that to deal with. So it's kind of that hurts more on the bike than the back. The only time I get my back sore when I'm around the bike is if I hit a pothole, and there's lots of those. So I try to avoid potholes and ramps, speed ramps. But occasionally I get one. That hurts. But generally speaking, I have less pain riding the motorbike than I do driving the car, which might seem strange, but that's the truth. So I'm lucky that I can still do all those things, because obviously I'm aware there are people out there with much, much worse injuries, illnesses, disabilities than me, who still love to do photography and would probably love to do more things in photography, but aren't able to because they've either not discovered a way or the doors are closed to them. And I'm going to do an episode next. The next episode is going to be about elitism in photography, and about nepotism in photography, and about, again, pushing that equality, diversity, inclusion bullshit, which only applies, it seems, in the industry where people want it to apply. And I am yet to come across a situation where photographers are welcomed from a disability angle. And by welcomed, I mean, is the shoot. Are you able to do the shoot if you're disabled in any way? And I would say most of the time, no. And I can semi-understand some of that. It might be a cost thing, probably more than anything. Oh, we don't want to spend all the X, Y, Z money on so and so. Part of the elitism thing I'm going to do next week. They won't even spend money to get me to drive from Rotherham to London. They'll book somebody in London instead, even though they might think my work's better or different or creatively different. They won't pay that extra few quid for me to drive to London. That's happened to me many times. So I know the mentality in the industry, and by industry I don't just mean the high end, the high echelons where all the worst people in the industry are. I mean everything from photography forum level to amateur level to mid level to day-to-day photography level to every bit up to the top. Photographers, the accessibility for photographers, the welcoming to photographers is limited. It's always obvious when there's been a collaboration, when photographers, makeup artists, stylists, everybody comes together and does some kind of mad collaboration, that it's rare to see the photographer credited from the other people. When you see photographers credit people, rare to see them miss somebody. But photographers are like the lowest common denominator. Like when a photographer does a piece of work for a band, fashion house, magazine, car company, anybody, they'll post a picture, no credit. Models, you do a model portfolio, model posts a picture, no credit. And I think that's because photographers are just undervalued in the main across the industry. Celebrated when it suits them, but in the main they're undervalued. So I'll get into that in more detail in the next podcast, but I'm hoping that some of you have kind of can understand what I've said today, and kind of maybe it's piqued interest in some of you that there are photographers out there with disabilities who can't perhaps do what they would like or are compromising, and that just because somebody's able to turn up and walk around and do the shoot doesn't necessarily mean that they can do everything that you would expect them to do. And as always, this dialogue in these areas is slim until somebody is brave enough to bring it up, and I'm always seem to be that person. I'll happily take that. But I am, satisfied with the work I do within the limitations I have. In fact, sometimes I do astound myself that I managed to get that shot, despite whether it's street photography. When me and Kirsty went to Greece, we had to climb up to the Parthenon, up the Acropolis, which is no mean feat for a fit, young, able person. But for me, my 50s, overweight, chronic back issue, took some powering through, and it was the desire to go up there and experience it with Kirsty and take the pictures that pushed me up that hill. But it was fucking difficult. None of that was easy. But it was worth it to get there. So that's it from me today. I hope you've all picked up a little something from that. I hope it's kind of resonated with some of you. If it has, like always, please like and subscribe. That does help me massively. It helps beat that pesky algorithm, which I'm still kind of fighting with. But if you could, leave a comment and like, subscribe, and all that other stuff, it would massively help the channel and me in my endeavours to keep it going and to make it fun and more exploratory and more crazy and a bit more in-depth, longer, more for you guys. So thanks for listening. Thanks for hopefully learning. Thanks for putting up with my rants and irritations. And have a great evening or whatever, whenever you're watching this. And I shall see you all on the flip side. Cheers.
A way to get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out